Nigeria's visa policy has become a focal point of discussion following the government's announcement of changes to the visa on arrival system. Citing security risks and unsustainability, the Ministry of Interior initially declared the policy's end, only to later clarify that it was being upgraded after a meeting with PEBEC. This shift has raised questions about the efficacy of the previous system and the balance between security and economic growth. And today we'll delve into the nuances of this policy change, examining its potential impact on business, investment, and Nigeria's international standing. Joining me for more on this, I have Dr. Oluwanbepelumi, Olanubi, Executive Director, Kingsgate Advisory Institute. Kingsgate Advisors Institute, actually. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Petra. Thanks for having me.
All right. We understand the Minister of Interior met with PEBEC on Tuesday, after which he clarified that the policy was not scrapped but upgraded. Do you think that was some maybe damage control move?
Right. I get where you're coming from there, really. For me, I don't think it's really like a damage control move. It's more of clarity.
Okay.
The communication was not really clear at first, but there was a sense of clarity. What the minister is trying to say is not that they are scrapping the visa on arrival 100%. They are actually upgrading it, and that's the right word, because now we are not looking, they're not using this visa on arrival process where when you after applying online and you come into the country, there's a stamp, that you get probably at the airport or any border that you come in through. But now it's going to be fully online. It's now e-visa process. But before even going into nuances of that, we need to still look at what the policy is and what it stands for. I remember January 2020, under the Buhari administration, that was when the policy was initiated and that was when it kicked off. And basically, the policy was targeted to, to improve the ease of doing business in the country and also attract tourists, tourists from different parts of the continent and beyond, so that our efforts towards diversifying the economy can be achieved through the tourism sector. So that's also one of the reasons, and also to even put Nigeria out there as a thriving investment destination. And remember that one of the reasons why this policy was actually initiated was so as to attract more of the foreign direct investment, which is more long-term in nature. So that's why we had the policy in place. And over the years, there have been threats, or there have been what we call risks to these policies, and one of which is security. And this security has come to the fore. That is why we are seeing this upgrade and this adjustment done. And that was what was communicated by the Minister of Interior on last week Friday.
Oh, that's quite interesting. I mean, you've talked about the fact that there were maybe some security concerns. I was going to ask you about that, if you think his reason is justifiable, but of course you already said that. But here's my concern. Does this mean that the visa on arrival provision was discretionary, such that people could just come in, without proper checks, without proper guidance? I mean, I know there is an eligibility criteria and all of those things. So what exactly went wrong?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you will agree with me that for every policy that is initiated in any economy, right, not just Nigeria, there's always this, within the policy cycle, there's always time for policy review. Like I said, security has become a major threat and has come to the fore, and that's why we are seeing this reason why we see this upgrade. One of the reasons why this is now very important is because Nigeria has been tagged, in quotes, informally, as one of the destinations for what we call the world notorious people. They'll come to hide. Some people even come under disguise to hide in the country, and this has affected our global standing and then the way we are viewed globally. So in a bit to correct that, and also the fact that some illegal immigrants in that sense have come in to stay, some overstaying their visa time permit, and also these are the reasons why we have been saying this large issue.
But if I get you correctly, isn't that as a result? If I get you correctly, isn't that as a result of failure of the system? Won't the same failure, persist even with the new policy? Because I mean, we just saw the eligibility criteria roll up on the screen and all of those. But I'd like you to do that in 30 seconds.
All right. Like I said, one of the reasons why we are having this review, is because we have seen lapses and we have seen reasons why we need to upgrade some of our system. And if you look at this new system that they are hoping to come in, the system is such that it's going to be fully virtual and it's going to be fully online. And with that, there's a sense of tracking some of this data. For instance, if you apply to come into Nigeria now, the system is such that within 24 to 48 hours, you will be screened, and some of the data is actually synchronized with the Interpol and other security agencies, where a full screening process would have gone through, whereby they would have checked your profile and see your eligibility and confirm all that before you even say you want to come into the country. So this is better because we have a robust system, database, where we can actually track in and out. Or not that this is not without its own
challenges,
shortcoming, right? But we need to be now very careful because of cyber theft and all that comes with use of online platform and all that. So that threat is also there, and we cannot deny that. But really, for at least to curb the evident security issues that we are seeing, this is a good step in the right direction, I would say.
All right, thank you so much. Also joining me on this call is Gbolahan Olojede, financial market analyst. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, I want us to look at the new policy. Talk to me. Do you think it efficiently addresses the concerns that were raised by the Minister of Interior, and do you also see potential trade-offs?
Okay, I think where you stopped is actually the crux of the matter. The possible trade-offs. While on one side we want to encourage, relatively free movement, especially for business, which has implication for economic development. But at the same time, while you're doing this, you must ensure that you don't expose yourself to security challenges. It is this delicate balance that we are seeing at play right here. From the perspective of the Minister of the Interior, I like the way he put it when he said, I don't want you coming into my country when I don't even know you are coming. So also what that means is that all sort of interesting people who find their way into the country, playing on the weaknesses of the existing destination visa arrangement. So it's either of two things. It's either we are saying those weaknesses that we have spotted, there is a way to fix them and make the visa on arrival more foolproof. The alternative is to say, let's look at something else. If we think that the weaknesses we have spotted are not something we can deal with or deal with within a short period. So if we cannot deal with it within a short period, let's look at the alternative. Then we can work on those weaknesses over time and then consider bringing it back. That's my initial thoughts on that.
Okay, let me ask you, do you fear that these proposed changes to Nigeria's visa policy have the potential to sort of affect its standing in global ease of doing business rankings? And what implications could this sort of have on foreign direct investment?
Well, of course, as far as foreign direct investment is concerned, though, there's not going to be a big shake right there. Because people who are involved in foreign direct investment will always, the visa will not be a challenge under those kind of conditions. As a matter of fact, the presidency itself is interested in foreign direct investment. And I remember the president making a commitment that, look, if you're having any challenge, please get across to me as the chief executive. And whatever may be your challenges, we can resolve it. So at the level of foreign direct investment, I don't think it will affect that much. But then there are other issues around trade that may be affected by what we're talking about. So if people are not able to move as freely as they would have loved to, then obviously they might change their trade destination to other places where there is a better freedom to be able to go in and out and do their trade activity. But while that is going on, that security remains something that you must not, we must not toy with. As a matter of fact, if we don't deal with the security aspect of what we're talking about, it will eventually still affect foreign direct investment. when these investors are saying that maybe some high target terrorists are able to come into your country, or some money laundering issues that they will not want to be associated with are easily, people involved in drugs, for example, are able to flow into your country, it will affect their perception of your country, and by extension, whether they will even come to do business in that country at all. So it's a very delicate balance, and we just have to work together, especially those two agencies of government, to see how we can secure the country better, and at the same time, not chase away or reduce the trade potential for the country and its trading partners.
All right, so in summary, you are in support of this upgrade, right or wrong?
I am in support of it. But what I think is that we should move as fast as possible to rectify the weaknesses that we have spotted. But while that is going on, this alternative approach might just be the best thing to do.
All right, let me come to you, Doctor. Talk to us about the importance of, lifting tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade, especially within Africa. I mean, considering NAFTA, and if you also have concerns that the modification sought by the Minister of, let's say the Minister of Interior, could sort of maybe affect the balance, or if it could give us the balance we need for growth and also ensuring security.
Thank you. It would be like living in denial. It would don't admit that it's really going to affect trade, at least in the short run. And like the minister has actually said clearly that they are still going to see a way to reduce the negative impact that this might have. And thankfully, CBN has lifted some of the barriers we have had. And some would even argue that AFCTA is not fully activated in Nigeria because of some of the barriers that we have seen, even within the ECOWAS and even beyond the African region in general. But with this new policy, it signals a form of restraint, at first. But I know that by the time the clarity comes in, and the fact that, like Mr. Gbolahan said, foreign direct investors are really interested, as the government has also signaled, they are interested in coming to the country. And also, let's bear in mind that as much as these barriers have been lifted, some of the things that investors look at is not just in terms of free entry or ease of entry. They also look at the macroeconomic fundamentals to make their investment decision. So those are the factors that will come to play. And I think the positive impact would outweigh the negative impact in the long run. But in the short run, there might still be some sort of skepticism and being cautioned by the investors in coming into the country.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Gbolahan Olojede, let's have your parting shot before we go.
Okay, for a parting shot, I believe when we're conceiving policies as important as destination visa, visa on arrival, we have to take into cognizance the various dimensions. Maybe at the conception, there were certain weaknesses, because this is not a new policy, and several other countries have implemented it. So the question will be, did we take some learnings from others who have done it before we embarked on it? Otherwise, things like this will start to look as policy somersault, which is not good for us. However, security first. Security first.
Absolutely, security first. Thank you so much, Gbolahan Olojede, finance expert, for your thoughts on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Oluwanbepelumi, Olanubi, Executive Director, Kingsgate Advisors Institute. Thank you also for your thoughts on the show today.